Skincare has become a hobby for so many people, especially since the pandemic. It's kind of become like a collector's item, and with the rise of TikTok and that quick, almost like fast fashion approach to skincare, more and more people are trying skincare, using products they don't really know a lot about, and using products that they hope is going to give them the results that they want, their dream skin, that perfect skin, and the products that influencers are pushing and pushing and pushing. I'll be the first to admit, as somebody who's been reviewing skincare for about 6 years, almost, no, maybe 8, I don't know. Skincare has always been a hobby of mine, and that includes purchasing product. But the idea was never for people to consume as much skincare as they are and use as many products as they are using. Today, I want to look at a few reasons why skincare might be ruining your face, things you might want to be on the lookout for, and putting some common sense back into using skincare. If I haven't used a product within 6 months, I check the expiry date and then give it away, because if I've not touched it within those 6 months, I'm never going to use it. I feel like most consumers, normal, average, everyday consumers, once they buy a skincare product, it's like one cleanser or one moisturizer, whatever. They open it, they usually have like 12 to 24 months to use it, but they're usually going to use it within 6 months if they use it every single day. However, Paula's Choice actually reported that the International Journal of Cosmetic Science evaluated the makeup routines and habits of 44 women ages 18 to 28 and found that 70% of those women were using some type of expired cosmetic, usually eye products, and when tested for contamination, 67% of those products had some kind of harmful microorganism living on them, including staph, which we're going to talk about. But what does happen if you use expired skincare? Anything? Does anything happen? Well, looking at the stories today, a lot could happen. The story I'm about to tell you, just a foreshadowing, a little bit graphic. There's a lot of speculation because this influencer is kind of staying a little bit quiet about what exactly happened, but it's a mix of evidence and fan speculation after watching things like lives and seeing comments, all that kind of stuff. But meet Beast Easter from TikTok. This is Stephanie Margarusi. She creates, I guess, what is kind of like general lifestyle content. She's not really a skincare or beauty content creator, but that seems to be part of her overall content. Now, I don't know why she was filming herself. Perhaps it was from like a TikTok live, Instagram live, or if she was filming some kind of skincare routine video. But Stephanie decided to use what is rumored to be a Murad spot treatment. Rumored to be. I don't know where people are getting this idea from, but apparently she said it herself at some point. So she's putting this rumored to be spot treatment all over her face, right? And during this video, there's no audio, but she says that she started to feel a stinging sensation. But she decided to keep the product on as like a mask or something. I don't really know. I'll explain why I'm confused in a little bit. Once the product was removed, she saw that this had happened to her skin. She has had a horrible reaction to the skincare product. After this, she decided to steam her face, and I don't know why, but another comment that I found had said that she had thought that this is what estheticians do to kind of like calm and soothe or heal the skin or something. It was a silly idea because this does not help with this kind of reaction on the skin. It looks as though she then goes to the hospital because she is in pain. Her face is swelling up, and her swelling is actually so bad that there were a couple of videos posted online accusing her of using filters. And whilst it does look like a filter, you can actually see in the video that this is what her face looks like. There is no filter going on. There is no bending of the background, nothing like that. Her face was swollen, and you can see this throughout different types of content that she posts later down the line. Stephanie has still been very, very cryptic about what exactly happened and what is still going on, but she has put up the occasional video with the odd captions such as "shout out to the hospital, I wouldn't be here without medicine," and another caption saying "when you get a chemical burn over your face and it turns into an infection that started to spread through your bloodstream and almost killed you." So this suggests that because of the wounds on her face, she opened herself up to bacterial infections such as impetigo, MRSA, staph, or even strep, to name a few. If you want to see more about this, watch my video about like the triangle of death. This kind of explains it a little bit more. General infections, right? And this type of infection can lead to redness, swelling, pain, pussy skin, and if not treated properly, potentially even death in the most extreme circumstances. Now, it's because the supposed alleged Murad product was 2 years out of date. It had expired 2 years prior to usage. 2 years is a whole lifetime of an unopened product. This product had lived 2 lifetimes, and then she decided to put it on her skin, an open product as well. So this is where I get a little bit confused, because looking at the rumor that is a Murad product, which I think she liked or she had been seen using before and raved about, saying that this was a direct spot treatment that she had used on her face, in her own words. So teaming that information with the color of the product, this can only be one product. The Rapid Relief Blemish Spot Treatment, however, this is almost like a clear, runny gel cream consistency, and it just wouldn't look like that on the skin. So something's not right, something's wrong here, something's weird. There are some comments under Instagram posts saying that she's lying, saying that this was something different, that she's not telling the truth because she's embarrassed, like, no, she's not suing because she's the one at fault. I don't know. I would love just a clear-cut answer to what it was that she used, because it is all a little bit confusing. But what's even more confusing is, how can an expired product do this? It's got actives in, potentially. When it comes to working out what exactly expired products can do to our skin, how they work, should you, shouldn't use them, can you ever use them? So I asked cosmetic chemist Ava Perkins, one of my favorite scientific-based skincare accounts over on Instagram and TikTok. I had to ask, like, what is going on?
Hi, my name is Ava Perkins. I'm a cosmetic chemist. This looks so incredibly painful, but I'm so glad that she's doing better now. Now, I'm no dermatologist, so I'm not qualified to diagnose what happened to her. However, it's very clear that she's had an adverse reaction to this product. I appreciate her in being open and posting this, because this is actually a really great learning opportunity to talk about product stability, product expiration, and how you can be more careful as a consumer. When your products start to reach their limit, the ingredients start to break down, either making it less efficacious or potentially dangerous to your health. And there are a few reasons why your product would degrade over time. Maybe it's exposed to too much moisture, maybe the preservation system breaks down, extreme temperature changes, yada yada yada. Knowing shelf life is so important because this is your way of knowing when to part ways with your product. Alright, so let's talk about where you can find the shelf life of your product on the packaging. Either on the outer packaging your product comes in, or on the product itself, there's going to be some symbols that you should look out for. In the EU, any cosmetic product that has a lifespan of less than 30 months must have a best before the end of, and then the date. This can be shown using the egg timer symbol, then followed by the date. With products that have a lifespan of longer than 30 months, it must have a period after opening time, and that is depicted by a jar with a little number in it. That number is how long that product will remain in good condition after the first use, period after opening. There are some exceptions though. With aerosols or perfumes or single-use products, this is just not necessary. Okay, so that's for the EU. In the United States, there is no laws or regulations stating that you have to state the shelf life or the expiration date on a cosmetic product, which seems super annoying. However, let me explain why you would probably still see it anyway. But let me be clear here. If the product is an OTC drug, or if it has that drug facts on the label, then it is required by law to have an expiration date on it. And if not OTC, stability testing is still done on cosmetics, and it would be kind of silly to not put the shelf life on the product when they already do that testing anyway. If anything, I kind of side-eye brands that don't show the shelf life on their products. And for larger brands that sell their products in other countries in addition to the United States, they're gonna have to adhere to their labeling requirements anyway, so might as well just include it on the US products too. Now, something to consider with any product that you use is that these symbols are the most relevant when your product is stored in ideal conditions. This means away from direct sunlight and preferably out of the bathroom where the humidity and temperature change quite a bit. And listen, I understand that's not the most feasible, however, that is just something to keep in mind. So now that we've gone over what labeling to look for, what is the average shelf life of a product? This is a challenging question to find a straightforward answer to online because formulation itself is not universal. Listen, there's a lot of recommendations out there. Throw your mascara out every 3 to 6 months, keep your creams for a year or two. And while I definitely do agree to throw away products that come in contact with your eyes much more frequently, I think there's a little more variability when it comes to non-OTC skincare products and makeup too. For example, a serum with pure ascorbic acid or vitamin C in it is going to have a much shorter shelf life than one without it. That's why I'm not the hugest fans of the generalizations that you might find online. But when in doubt, check the product packaging for a PAO or an expiration date. But what if it doesn't have one? What do you look out for? Y'all, I understand how closely you pay attention to details online, and I want that same energy with all the cosmetic and personal care products you use. If you see a change in color, a texture change, separation of your product, or a change in smell, that is a sign that your product is no longer stable. So this requires you to actually pay attention to the products you use all the way from the very start to the rest of its life. Now, real talk, let's chat about this. I'm a realist. I'm sure many of you have products that are currently well past its expiration date and have had no issues. So is shelf life really that big of a deal? For OTC products like a benzoyl peroxide cleanser or a sunscreen that have a set expiration date, I will say yes. You're going to start losing the efficacy of the product and it could potentially be dangerous for your health. In terms of non-OTC products, I may or may not have products right now that are past their expiration date, and luckily nothing has happened to me. However, as a cosmetic chemist, I wouldn't necessarily recommend that because that is just not the case with everyone, and you are assuming risk by using your product past its shelf life. If you're feeling on the fence of whether it's safe or not to use a product, I would recommend patch testing a small portion on your arm first, because I'm sure you would much rather have an adverse reaction here than the entirety of your face. But in the event that you have some sort of negative reaction to a product, whether it is expired or not, please report it to both the company and whatever your governing body is. There are systems set in place that deal with adverse events reporting, so it is important that they know. All right, I'm done yapping. Thanks so much for having me, James, and stay safe out there.
You can check the pinned comment for all of Ava Perkins' social media accounts. If you like general debunking stuff, skincare product tips and tricks, and generally just good advice, go check her out. As I mentioned, Paula's Choice found that over 70% of women used an expired beauty product at some point in their lives, or even just in a single constant routine. In 2022, however, Face the Future held their own survey focusing primarily on skincare. They conducted a new survey with over 2,000 participants to find out more about their skincare routines and if they keep track of the expiration dates. This survey found that out of the 2021 participants, 83% of those people do not keep track of when their products expire, and although 60% of them were fully aware that skincare and beauty products in general have an expiry date, none of them checked them and were still using them regardless of the situation. And I think this is kind of normal, but very prevalent right now. As I mentioned with the boom of skincare in lockdown, I feel like a lot of us, especially influencers, but a lot of average everyday consumers own a lot more skincare than they ever need to or can ever physically use. So it's easy to lose track of like what we're using, what we have in our drawers or cupboards, out of the sheer amount of product that we buy thinking it's gonna help with our skin. And this is how Jessica Oram felt back in 2019, really when the skincare boom happened, when we were all in lockdown and wanting to improve our complexions, whatever. Her main goal was to really even out her skin tone, and because of this, her skincare collection grew and grew. She became very enthusiastic about skincare and passionate about skincare, in particular evening skincare routine. She always wanted to try new products, and much like the vast majority of people starting a skincare routine, she went all in, all at the same time, layering multiple products, multiple actives in serum form in particular. And after a while, she noticed her skin was getting more and more sensitive. It was becoming like a little bit irritated, like sensitive to the touch. And she thought, you know, I'm using new products, I'm using new actives, maybe this is what is supposed to happen. You know, that kind of like age-old thinking of like, it's stinging, it's working, that most of us millennials are kind of trapped with. And also with the information that, you know, sometimes you have to go through a purging stage in order for your skin to improve, she just carried on. She was like, this is what's supposed to happen. And of course, her skin didn't improve, with her cheeks in particular becoming inflamed and irritated and sore, but she persisted with her skincare routine, again thinking, I'm gonna see the results I want eventually. Then what made it worse was when her cheeks were getting sore, her friends and family who were also getting into skincare were like, try this product works for me, this might help, blah, 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 throwing new products at her. So she was changing, swapping skincare consistently with no consistent routine. So as you would expect, her skin was just irritated all the time. However, one of those people giving her like skincare advice and sharing tips with and swapping products with was her best friend. Her best friend was like, you know what, try this cleanser. She had opened it, used it, didn't like it, but thought it would be good for her friend. So excited to have this new skincare product in her new skincare phase of her life, Jessica used it that evening, thought nothing of it, went to bed. The next morning, she woke up with a giant rash all over the bottom of her face, breakouts, redness, sore skin and irritation. Taking a look at the products that she was currently using, she noticed that that cleanser that her friend had given her that was already open had expired 3 months prior. This expired cleanser hurt her skin so bad that she couldn't even splash her face with water without being in pain. She reached out to an expert, I'm presuming an esthetician or a dermatologist, and they basically said what we all know, you're doing too much, but this cleanser is what has pushed your skin over the edge. It took months to heal. Jessica's fine now. This brings to mind a trend we saw a lot, especially after the pandemic. And this was not a purposeful trend, right? But this is a trend of what we kind of saw with Jessica, as a lot of people were buying all this new skincare, hoping to achieve all these skincare goals, using 4 to 10 different skincare products all at once, all at the same time, without slowly dripping in new products. Then a year later down the line, saying how skincare destroyed their skin, how becoming a skincare girly destroyed their their skin. And this annoys me because yes, you do get people who had perfectly good skin before venturing into skincare. Most of the men we know in our lives, for some reason, it's always the men who manage to use shampoo as their cleanser and have perfect skin. Genetics, DNA. Some people don't need skincare, and that's fine. I'm happy for them. But to use a huge number of skincare products all at the same time, incorrectly, destroy your skin, then blame the skincare for it and say that your skin was better before you started using skincare, it's so annoying because it's so obvious. You're blaming the tools, you know, when you use them incorrectly. And you see all these videos of these people saying how skincare destroyed their skin, doing the exact same thing of using too many products at once. And it creates this narrative that skincare doesn't work, when really it's their fault. I came across this article by Amelia Bell of Women's Health, who had this exact same experience a couple of months ago during the pandemic again, of course. She says in her own words that she treated skincare like speed dating, chopping and changing when products failed to live up to her expectations, and swiping left when the next shiny thing in skincare came along. I feel like that's everyone. That's a huge majority of people, even to this day. She goes on to say in her Women's Health article, "My 10-step routine ruined my skin," that a staggering 78% of those quizzed by Swedish beauty brand Foreo in a global survey said they'd expanded their skincare routine since the start of the pandemic, while the famed skincare shelfie hashtag now has amassed over 1 million views on TikTok. And she said that despite feeling pretty clued up on skincare ingredients, you know, your actives, your tools, even masking, she developed a rash that spread all over her face, mainly like her forehead down to her chin, that she couldn't get rid of. And despite having all these amazing skincare products and this wealth of knowledge that she learned online, her skin had never looked worse. Amelia sent this picture of her skin to dermatologist Stephanie Williams, but it doesn't take a dermatologist to know that too many products with too many different ingredients all at the same time, not even just actives, just a mass of new ingredients, will irritate your skin. It's going to mess up your skin. And that's what she's confessing in this article. She knows her mistake. She knows she did something silly. And as I mentioned, there's videos out there and articles, not this one at all. This is a really fair, common sense article. But there are other articles and videos about skincare destroying people's skin, going one step further now to even saying that's a scam, with actual professionals in the industry saying why I don't use skincare. And usually they're prescribing something, or usually they're selling something, you know? Just because it doesn't work for some people, or just because some people used it wrong, it doesn't mean it's a scam. Legally, it's not allowed to be a scam. The Cosmetic, Toiletry and Perfumery Association Limited is the UK trade association representing all types of companies involved in making, supplying and selling cosmetics and personal care products. Now, there's a regulation, which I'll link this all down below, laying down common criteria for the justification and claims used in relation to cosmetic products. The objective of the common criteria is to protect consumers from misleading claims, whilst also ensuring better convergence of actions of member state competent authorities, but it's not aimed at defining and specifying the wording that can be used for cosmetic product claims. However, what this criteria includes is legal compliance, truthfulness, evidential support, and evidential support includes claims for cosmetic products, whether explicit or implicit, shall be supported by adequate and verifiable evidence, regardless of the types of evidential support used to substantiate them, including where appropriate expert assessments. Where studies are being used as evidence, they shall be relevant to the product and the benefit claimed, shall follow well-designed, well-conducted methodologies, and shall respect ethical considerations. And there's a ton more. I'll link it all down below so you can read the whole kind of like compliancy for yourself. Very long story short, there are guidelines, there are practices, there are legislations and laws in place to make sure that brands aren't completely bullshitting us. And of course, brands do bullshit us. The FDA, the ASA regularly pick up on this, finding brands, making them change their claims, picking up on exaggerated claims that can't be backed by any kind of science or studies or their own kind of like evidence. But I think people forget that skincare and the cosmetics industry isn't just a cute, fun hobby that people have. And I do believe that it's because this is mainly a industry that's targeted to women. Women make up the vast majority of people who invest in this industry. Despite the value of the cosmetics market, according to Statista, I said that wrong, Statistixia, I'll link it down below. In 2018, the value of the global cosmetic market was at $507.8 billion US dollars, and the market projected to be valued at around $758.4 billion US dollars by 2025. This isn't just a fun hobby that people are making cute, funny claims about. You know, like someone's mixing something up in their kitchen and being like, oh, this is going to cure your acne, or this is going to fade dark spots, or this is going to moisturize your skin. People are investing huge amounts of money into this cosmetics industry. If skincare was a scam, there are so many science-based jobs that wouldn't exist and wouldn't need to exist. And one of the key arguments that always makes me laugh is cavemen didn't use skincare. Cavemen didn't use sunscreen or whatever, trying to make it sound like a scam and something we don't really need. Well, of course they didn't, and you can tell they didn't. It also doesn't mean that they didn't get skin cancer, but also several anthropologists have discussed this time and time again, saying that things were completely different back then. Of course they didn't use cosmetics, they didn't need cosmetics. We've evolved to like live inside first of all as well, but also at some stage, skincare was being used. In fact, one of the first sunscreens was mud. People would cover their skin with mud to keep themselves cool and to stop their skin being affected by the sun, stop it being burned. The practice of doing skincare, of beautifying yourself, has been around for centuries and it's just evolved like everything else has done. People don't say the same thing for electricity. It's like, well, candles worked fine. Like you didn't see like, I don't know, when was electricity invented? You didn't see like the Tudors using electricity and they were fine. For housing, clean and accessible water, you know, things evolve, our needs change, and we've evolved in certain ways as well. Let me know what you think about, first of all, skincare being a scam. Are you one of those skincare girlies who use too much skincare and then your skin was destroyed and now you're using all these like ceramide creams and like milky toners to heal your skin? I know that's me. Let me know in the comments down below. You can watch some more When Beauty Turns Ugly here and some general light entertainment here, and I'll see you over there.